Yesterday, Raptors fans got treated to what might be the best news of the offseason so far, as it was confirmed that Svi Mykhailiuk was waived from the team. So in today's video, we're going to break down why the team chose to waive him at this point now, and also discuss who they might be eyeing to replace the player in the training camp roster. Let's get into it. What's going on, NBA and Raptors fans? It's Jacob here, back with Amateur Sports for another Toronto Raptors YouTube video. On this channel, I bring you the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news, and I'm doing it all throughout the offseason. So if you like what you see from today's video, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and you can help us on the road to 12,000 subscribers. Also, be sure to drop a like on the video if you enjoy, to go that extra little bit to support the brand and help grow the channel. But our video today is about Svi Mykhailiuk, because yesterday it was confirmed by the Raptors that he was getting waived by the team, and Raptors fans absolutely rejoiced. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a player of his caliber, like as low as his caliber, make such waves on Raptors for like so many people care about this news, because so many people wanted him gone from the organization. I am no exception to that fact, because last season was just a disaster for the player. We're going to cover why it was such a disaster, and also go through why the Raptors probably already have somebody lined up to replace him, and we're going to investigate who exactly that might be. But as it goes to the news that Svi Mykhailiuk got waived, this is something that I really didn't see coming. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily shocked, but my expectation was that he was just going to run it back on the team this season, because it's complicated with Svi Mykhailiuk. It's not like you can just waive him for free. He was on a guaranteed $1.9 million contract because he took up his player option at the very last, because no other team was interested in signing the player, it seems. So got that $1.9 million from the Raptors. Now, from a Raptors perspective, they had to look at this from a business. From a personal perspective, my team here, the team I am a fan of, I wanted him gone because there are talented players that can replace him on the roster. As it comes to an organization, a business, which it is, MLSE, Svi Mykhailiuk on a $1.9 million guaranteed contract, you'd have to waive. You would still have to pay that $1.9 million to have Svi Mykhailiuk play for another team. Then you'd have to pay the guy that replaces him on the roster, and you're likely finding somebody that's going to find it difficult to actually make the Raptors' final roster. So you'd have to pay Mykailiuk, pay the guy coming in, and you don't know how much of an upgrade that's going to be. And also Mykailiuk, like, he's been a decent shooter in the past in his NBA career. Maybe he can find that again this season, but the Raptors are not going to let that happen. And you can't really blame them, honestly. Mykailiuk last season, we were really excited going into last season. One of the biggest problems in the Tampa season, the tank season, was that we just had a definitive lack of floor spacing and a definitive lack of shooting. It was apparent that our bench needed a shooter, and it seemed like the Raptors had found that in Mykailiuk. Going into that season, he chose the Raptors over the Lakers, who were supposed to be contenders, and he chose the Raptors over the Brooklyn Nets, who were also supposed to be contenders, but he chose us over these teams. He really wanted to come to the Raptors. That was pretty exciting, and we needed a shooter, and I mean, a lot of people are excited. I dubbed him as an essential piece to the Raptors rotation, and it seemed like in preseason, wow, this guy can shoot. Also, not a bad ball handler, can get to the rim here and there. He's like Matt Thomas, maybe not as good of a shooter, but he can also actually do stuff with the ball in his hands. But all of that really fell off a cliff in the regular season. Like, this guy just could not hit any shots. Like, he just could not hit his shots. His three-point percentage regressed. On top of that, he was a complete and utter liability on defense. And with the ball in his hand, oh my goodness, the turnovers that this guy had. Like, we do the live streams, the watch parties on my Twitch channel. We're going to bring those to YouTube for this season, so that's something to get excited about. But I do watch parties for every Raptors game. And we always had the running joke when Svi Mykhailiuk was playing that every time he plays, there's going to be that one absolutely diabolical, boneheaded turnover that he makes a game. Sure enough, every game he do it, we go, there it is. That's the one you're going to get from him every game. Eventually got to the point where he didn't even play at all, because he just could not have him on the court, because his defense was horrible. He couldn't have the ball in his hands. And on top of all that, the one thing that he needed to do was hit open threes consistently, and he still couldn't do that. And then, even in the summer, maybe you think, okay, he's been a good shooter in the past. Can he get it back? Masai Ujiri watched this guy go 0 for 9 from 3 in a FIBA match with Ukraine, his country, and he said, enough is enough. This guy can't shoot. Nothing is going to fix it for us. let's just wipe our hands clean on that $1.9 million and move on and find a replacement. And to me, for the Raptors to waive him now, which I was alluding to in the intro, why they decided to do this now, what it shows to me is that they probably have somebody lined up here. We're going to go through a few of the candidates that the Raptors can actually strongly consider to fill out the training camp roster. And we'll go back to some of the news we got maybe a week and a half ago here when Scotty Barnes was on his Twitch streams, and he was a little bit surprised to learn that Jarrett Culver had not signed a contract with the Toronto Raptors. And he was expecting he was mentioning that I thought he had already signed, and that got fans into a little bit of a frenzy here. Well, is Jarrett Culver signing? Are we going to waive Svi Mykhailiuk and bring in Jarrett Culver? Perhaps that is a distinct possibility at this point. They're waiting for the right time to waive Mykailiuk. I don't know the logistics of all of it. Maybe there was a specific time that they're waiting for. Maybe they want to bring in Jarrett Culver now. Jarrett Culver has been playing with the Raptors teams and the Raptors players at the Rico Hines runs. I'm sure a lot of you guys have been watching that footage, as have I. Jarrett Culver's been there. Scotty Barnes is a fan of the player, as he said in his Twitch stream as well. He's looked okay there. The big pull for Jarrett Culver as a player that you want to sign is that he is a former 6th overall pick in the NBA draft. I mean, some people might be watching this video having never really heard of Jarrett Culver. He went 6th overall 3 years ago. And the reason you may never have heard of him, or he hasn't really made an impact in the NBA, because he just has not performed well. It hasn't been injuries. He's just not lived up to that potential. 2 years with Minnesota, a year with the Memphis Grizzlies. Both teams discarded him, and you can't really blame them for doing that. Not showing a lot of ability, not showing a lot of potential. But it's not unlike the Raptors to take a flyer on a player like this. After all, he was a 6th overall pick at the time. There was a reason Minnesota drafted him 6th overall. I mean, they're not the best team at drafting, but a lot of teams would have taken him in the top 10 of that draft. And maybe some of that potential is just still lingering for the player. Maybe the Raptors, their great development system, they just feel like they can find something there with the player and bring him to some sort of level to compete at an NBA level on a consistent basis. As far as that goes, I mean, I don't know how good this guy can actually be. Maybe he needs the right tools for success. Minnesota's not a great team at developing players. Memphis kind of is, but he only had 1 year there. And again, he's been playing with the Raptors' Rico Hines run. Maybe they're fans of him, the players, the teammates. They want him there. I'm not so sure, but maybe there's just some sort of potential there. A recent example of the Raptors taking a flyer on a player like that is getting Stanley Johnson, who was either a 7th or 8th overall pick. Maybe they felt like they could find a little bit extra with the player. They ultimately could not. Why not take another chance here on Jarrett Culver? But there are other options available for the Raptors to pursue with this empty roster spot. There's 19 players now on the training camp roster. One of those spots is available. Why not bring back a guy who's already a restricted free agent? Jalen Harris last week or 2 weeks ago now got reinstated into the NBA after the 1 year suspension, and he's been keeping up his touches. I mean, he was playing Italy, where I would say he kind of underwhelmed from a statistical standpoint. I don't know how good the Italian basketball league is, but I kind of looked, I mean, I'm not watching those games. I looked at the box scores, I looked at the averages. They seemed a little bit underwhelming to me. And also, he's getting in game shape when he was playing in the CEBL, where he really, I mean, I don't watch these games as well, but it seemed like he really carried that team to the championship game, put the team on his back, just fell just a little bit short there, but put up some good averages in the CBL. Nothing that really lights the world on fire here, but one of the top scorers from a points per game perspective in the league. Maybe a little bit inefficient, but there's undoubtedly talent within this guy. Even in his rookie season with the Raptors near the end of the season, I know we were tanking, but he had a lot of injuries, and I think if he was healthy, he would have gotten a bit more play time with the Raptors. But from what we saw, though a limited sample size, it was impressive. None more impressive than the 30 or 31 point performance he had against the Dallas Mavericks in his hometown of Dallas. That was impressive. And for a 59th overall pick to do that, like in his rookie season, I mean, 59th overall picks in general just don't have games like that. Like, they just don't have games like that. There's probably like 2 players in the history of the NBA, including Jalen Harris, who have put up a 30-point stat line as a 59th overall pick. Like, late second-round picks just don't do that. And I mean, I was impressed with him in the G League in that rookie season, watching those games. He just seems like he's a player who has talent, and a player who has enough talent to, frankly, in my opinion, make this roster. And this is a great avenue for the Raptors to pursue. Again, he is a restricted free agent. The Raptors actually sent him the qualifying offer that made him the restricted free agent, so there might be some sort of interest there from the Raptors to bring him back to the team, see what he can offer, because from what I saw, I know it's a limited sample size, there is talent within this player. He makes the right decision. He's a good shot creator, gets to the rim, can shoot in mid-range, frees himself up for 3 on ball, frees himself for 3 off ball, and is a good shooter as well. There was a lot that I like about Jalen Harris, and I would really like to see more of him in a Raptors uniform, at least provided the opportunity in training camp now that the roster spot is open. But again, there are further avenues that the Raptors can pursue here. Another one could be bringing in a guy on an Exhibit 10 contract. Currently on the roster on an Exhibit 10 contract is Gabe Brown, also been participating in the Rico Hines runs. I mean, this guy is a shooter. This just provides you the opportunity to bring in a player who's going to be a great player for your G League team. The Raptors put a big emphasis on having a competitive G League team with the Raptors 905, who have had a good amount of success in their very short lifetime as a team here. And this could be a chance to get more talent for that team. Bringing in a guy on an Exhibit 10 contract because, you know, maybe you're looking at Culver and Harris, like they're not going to make the roster anyway. Bring somebody who's actually going to help in the G League. Find a good player for the G League there. And there's also a 4th avenue that they can pursue, and that's just not signing anybody. They do have flexibility under the cap. I know they got hard cap when they signed Christian Koloko to that 3-year deal instead of a 2-year deal, but they're comfortably under the tax line. They can sign a player here, not like a great player, but they can sign a player of their choosing, Jarrett Culver, Harris, and Exhibit 10, or whoever else, not like these big contracts, but a minimum contract. That is something that the Raptors can afford, and maybe there's other guys they can look at, but maybe they just feel like whoever we sign won't make the roster anyway. Let's just run 19 at camp and just let these guys fight it out, so we only have to cut 2 guys instead of 3 guys. I don't think that's going to happen. Why not bring in another guy? Because you can afford it and you have the space to do so, just to see if he's good enough to make the roster. At least, you know, you just get your eyes on another player. Maybe you see something there. I would definitely sign a guy, and if it was in my opinion, I would be making Jalen Harris the 20th guy for the training camp roster. Again, I'm going back to what I said. I just have to see more of him in a Raptors uniform. I would hate for his Raptors career to end by, of course, his own mistake, his own decision making, but I'm prepared to allow him to make amends for that and make this roster. I think Jarrett Culver is another good option, and Exhibit 10 is a good option as well. There's a lot of avenues that the Raptors can pursue here. Let's see who they bring in. I'm excited to see what kind of player they want to watch at training camp and in preseason. So what do you guys make of the Raptors waiving Svi Mykhailiuk? Did it catch you a little bit off guard like it did myself? How happy are you about this on a scale of 1 to 10? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, because that is it for me for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please, if you did enjoy, be sure to drop a like on the video. Goes a long way to supporting the channel, because it lets YouTube know that when you like the video, to recommend this video to more people with similar interests to you. Goes a long way to supporting the channel, growing the brand, and it only takes you a second to drop that like. Also, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe for the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news. You can also help me on my road to 12,000 subscribers and get all that great content in return. We'll see you again next time for another video.